Welcome to another Share Your Story. Very excited. Today we have Steve, but instead of Steve doing the interview, we already had his. We're going to flip the script a little bit. People have been asking when it's my turn to answer the questions instead of ask all the questions. So decided it was time. So Steve has thankfully stepped in to play the part of the interviewer today and to ask me some questions as I share a little bit about my story. So Steve, thanks for coming and letting me doing this with you.
Well, thank you, Caleb, and thanks for the opportunity, and just thanks for all of what you've been doing with this. I've heard so many people talk about how meaningful they found it, how much they've enjoyed getting to know folks a little bit better, and what a great idea. Before we get started, I just want to ask you, could you tell us a little bit about where this all came from, and when did you first have the idea to do this?
Yeah. So I really like podcasts. And so that's kind of where this came from. I've always been interested in the medium of podcasting as it's kind of taken over like talk radio and transformed into other things. So I listen to a lot of podcasts and had a podcast with the church a little bit for one of our church Bible studies that I was doing with the Psalms study. And that was kind of hit and miss on it. But what makes, I think, good podcasting and recording is having multiple people. So then started having the idea of how could I get more people in to talk about things. And someone mentioned just like they had a church that would record stories with their elders and other stuff and release it out. I was like, well, that's a really cool idea. And I like getting to know people. So I was like, selfishly, I just want to hear the elders' stories and get more background about them. And if I want to know this, then I'm sure other people are also interested. So we have the technology to record the conversations like this. And it's kind of exploded more than I thought. Like we've had over hundreds of views on each one, which has been really exciting to see people being really interested. And maybe the most positive feedback I've gotten is like, hey, thanks for asking the elders questions. And even some of the wives were like, thanks for forcing them to talk on some of it. Because it's been really, I think, beneficial for myself just hearing from them. But also the church has been really, I think, blessed by all of this.
Yes, no doubt. Yeah, I really think that there's a number of people that listen to my sermons. I think when they struggle sleeping at night, they found that to be helpful in that area. All right, well, let's get in a little bit about you. Most of the people you've been talking to had to remember a little more time to remember about when they were young. So you're closer to that than the rest of us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, growing up life and what are some things you were interested in? What were you involved with? Things like that.
Yeah. So I moved around a lot growing up. I was actually born in Montgomery, Alabama. I don't ever recognize that because I was there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was only there for about a year.
Well, I'm not going to bring up OU just beat Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Let's move on.
But they lived there for about a year, and then actually my family moved up to Buffalo, New York. I also don't remember that because I was under 2 between those 2 moves. So I kind of claim most of my life being an Oklahoman and a Kansan. So I grew up in Oklahoma until I was in 7th grade, and then we moved up to a small town, Lewisburg, just south of Kansas City area in 7th grade. So in Oklahoma, we had all family around. My grandparents lived just around the corner from me, and so I have very fond memories of walking to my grandparents' house, and my cousins lived around the other corner in the same neighborhood. And so we're always walking to each other's houses. Parents would just call and say, hey, they're on their way over. And so family was really close for all of us. And so grew up going to church with them at Memorial Road Church of Christ, which we lived in a neighborhood right across the street. So grandpa was a preacher on my dad's side for a long time and an elder and always very active. And so church was always kind of an intrinsic part of growing up and being there. And all my friends were at the church. Memorial Road's a huge church. There was a lot of young families there. So did sports and played baseball and basketball and everything else with all those kids within the church. So kind of my whole childhood was church oriented. And so did a lot of sports, did a lot of games. My parents were always, hey, try out whatever you want to. I remember we had neighborhood friends across the street, and my grandpa had a wood shop, and so he made us wooden swords. And so we would sword fight out in the front lawn and with cousins, probably bruised a little bit from it, but we were outside quite a bit playing. There was a middle school that had there's softball and baseball fields at our dead end. And so we could walk down the street and play games there. So it was always a lot of fun doing stuff with family, with cousins growing up. And even in sixth grade, I was really close to my grandpa and grandma because I changed schools in sixth grade. I went to school with my sister and mom where she was a teacher at. Didn't really like the school and had some not so great experiences with some kids in about fifth grade. So I had the opportunity to switch over in sixth grade where all my church friends went to school. So I was very excited to go with all them. And it was a walk away from my grandparents' house. So I got out earlier. So for a year, I would go over to grandma and grandpa's house, eat homemade bread, and play ping pong with grandma for an hour in sixth grade. Awesome. And I really loved that time of life with them and have really fond memories of that. But then my dad decided that needed a new job and got transferred up into the Kansas City area. So in seventh grade, moved up there. We had no family ties whatsoever there. So going from having a lot of family and friends around to not having a lot of family and friends around was difficult. But really, I think looking back on it, formative of I would not be here if we had probably not moved to Kansas because that shaped my church experience. So with that move, took a long time to make friends. Didn't have a lot of friends in junior high school until like junior, senior year. But that's really when I got into music. And so joined band there, and I've played guitar and some other instruments all growing up, but really high school is I think where I learned I'm not super athletic when it comes to things. Yeah. So I didn't know I was going to be 6'3" until like my sophomore year in high school. So basketball was a little late in the game there. Yeah. So started doing choir and band and really found that I had a knack for that. So that kind of inspired that. And my friends and I would come over and play guitar and make up songs and do really angsty acoustic versions of rock songs. So that was a lot of fun. And then went on the church side of things. Memorial Road was a huge church with like 100+ kids our age in the age group, youth group. And then went to a church, Overland Park Church of Christ, for a couple of years, 7th and 8th grade year, and had a decent sized youth group, probably 50 or so kids in the youth group. But that church started making some decisions that we felt were not right for us and not really necessarily following what we thought we should be doing. And so we went from there to 151st Street Church of Christ, which had 7 kids in the youth group, including my sister and myself, with no youth minister. So that was really challenging my freshman year in high school to go from 100+ kids in the youth group area to 50 kids to 7 kids, no youth minister.
Yeah, huge change.
Really big change. And so that's kind of I remember a lot of conversations with my parents being like, hey, if you want something now, you have to do it. And so we just kind of, my parents and Jenna and I just started making a lot of events for us to do because no one else was doing it. We had some families move in that really kind of pushed with that. And really, my junior, senior year had an older guy, Josh Fowler is his name. I think he's down to Louisiana now. Interned as a youth intern, even though he was a little bit older and going back to school from Bible after being a car salesman. And seeing that really showed what intentional meaning in youth group could do for a bunch of teenagers. Having someone that was just there to mentor and to care about what they were doing. Our youth group was closer then than it ever was after that. So that was really inspiring, kind of got me thinking about doing ministry long term. And so that was kind of the path I kind of thought going to OC as when I went to college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I don't think most 18-year-olds know what they want to do. So I had gone from everywhere from joining the Navy to nursing to Bible, so figuring out everything. And ended up going to OC for a nursing degree, and was that for a week, and then realized I hate blood.
That's a problem for nurses.
Problem for nurses if you don't like blood. My family laughs because I passed out when I was actually overheated, but my grandpa, I pricked my finger and he squeezed it, and I just fell backwards, passed out. So probably good thing I'm not a nurse. So then switched to Bible and had some youth internships during that year. And every minister I talked to was not a Bible major. And so I was like, well, maybe if there's a chance I don't want to be doing ministry forever. I need some sort of other degree. And so switched after my freshman year to an accounting degree at OC. And that's what I graduated with, was an accounting degree, but really did not like it. Should have gotten out of it. Realized I had a really good accounting teacher in high school that I liked, and not necessarily the program, but loved my time at OC. I did not like high school, but I loved college and that experience. That's where I met Lisa, who's from Texas. And so we wouldn't have met in any other way besides going to college together. We met our sophomore year at the very end and got engaged at the end of junior year and married right after 2015 after we graduated. So that was kind of a brief synopsis of my childhood, of lots of church interaction and involvement with a lot of activities, and a lot of family was high priority for us.
Was there a point in that journey that you kind of described where it felt like you had a faith of your own, not just with faith of your fathers and such, but that was truly personal relationship with Christ?
Yeah. So I remember the first time I thought about baptism was in 7th grade. So it was when we moved to Kansas. I remember being at a retreat, and we were taking communion together at the end of the retreat on the Sunday morning before we went back home. And everyone was starting to take it, and I just passed it by. And it was in that moment I was like, why am I not partaking of this? I know everything that I need to know, so what's stopping me? So that kind of set down of okay, we're here in a new place. There's a new youth group. I can't just rely on my parents and my grandpa and the friends around me for everything. So if this is going to be something, then okay, this is going to have to start. So that was really when I kind of sat down and talked with my parents and decided that, hey, I know enough. And so I was 12 years old when I was baptized, or 13. And that was just kind of the eye opener. There wasn't a huge transformational process, but just why am I waiting for something more when I know Jesus is my Lord and all the other things? The rest I can learn along the way. And there's definitely been moments since then that I've grown and learned what it really means to lean on Jesus and be at his mercy as I've grown up. But that was kind of the first step of okay, I really need to figure out what this is. And then even in high school, when we went to the really small church, I did not like church then. I really did not like the small church. The preacher was not my favorite style of preacher. It was hard for me to stay awake during his sermons. For very intelligent man, very biblically studied, had a lot of great experiences, but just as a high schooler trying to just sit, I remember even one time he slammed on the podium to get 2 kids to stop talking during church. And that, it was just,
I'll have to remember that.
Yeah. He just bang, bang, bang. And the kids were just and he just stared at them for a few seconds and then kept going. I was I remember that more than any sermon he ever did. And so I just really did not like church. But then talking with my parents about, hey, now if you're not getting anything out of it, so what can you put into it? We don't always go to church just to be filled. That you need to go and start. There are other kids that want the same opportunities that you had. And so let's do something. If you don't like it, then don't complain about it. Let's actually fix something about it. So that's really when I think the faith became my own, is because, okay, I actually need to start doing something and leading. And ever since then, I think becoming a youth minister started there, because if someone wasn't doing it, and I didn't like not participating in it. And so I don't like going to church and not actively being involved, whether on staff or off of staff there. But that's kind of the transition of okay, this is now not just my grandpa being the preacher and all the other things. This is my choice, and I'm going to continue going down that road.
Well, when did that road lead you to Union Hill?
So that would be right after I graduated. I thought I would always maybe get into ministry. But my junior year, I had an internship with Devon Energy, which is an oil and gas company. And they offered me a full-time job at the start of my senior year for when I graduated. And it was way more money than I thought I would ever make right after college doing the oil and gas. So I was okay, this is the only accounting internship I've ever done. They offered me the job. Maybe God, I can just volunteer at a church that needs volunteers to do stuff. And I was graduated, started working, and hated it. I was like, I can't sit behind a desk all day. I don't care about the oil and gas field. I don't like Excel spreadsheets that much. So what else? And I remember being in church and hearing sermons. I know we kind of talked when we talked about like the Spirit moving in kind of dramatic ways and actually like kind of hearing the voice of God. This is probably the closest experience I got with hearing the voice of God, was just like sitting and listening to sermons, and like something just said, you should be doing that. You need to be teaching and preaching. And so really talked with Lisa about it, was already looking at other jobs when the oil market crashed, and then I lost my job, was taken away. So I was like, okay, I have to do something now. And so I started looking for some youth ministry jobs, and Lisa's aunt had in Texas knew someone that was a youth minister there that had heard of Union Hill, and texted us, not knowing I was looking for youth ministry jobs, to say, hey, do you know anyone at OC that's looking for this? I was like, well, I'm just going to check this out myself and not tell anyone else about this. And so I was talking to Dad, and they had just hired Joe Brumfield, who was down in this area. And Joe called me and was like, hey, I know Steve. I know the church. It's a great church. It's super healthy. Do you mind if I call Steve and let him know about you and kind of talk to him? I was like, yeah, sure. Sounds great. So I remember just having all these weird connections here. When we first moved here, my childhood best friend's grandparents lived here, the Holders. And so even stayed with them when I came up and did my interview. And it was good to reconnect. I grew up going to their house when they had lands. So it's just weird to have all these plates kind of just open up, and it became really easy. I was interviewing with another church at the same time in, I think, North Carolina or South Carolina. I forget which one. But I remember talking to me like, hey, they're flying me out there in a month. I would rather stay closer in the Midwest. So if we want to make this happen, can we kind of expedite this process? And you guys were thankful. I was thankful enough that you guys did. You were super expedient with it. And so I was able to kind of just fall in the lap of, I feel like God just directed us here for it.
Yeah, it was like right before camp out weekend.
Yeah.
Right. So interesting, the timing. How long has that been now?
So I came in October of 2016. And so the camp out was my first weekend officially, which is like maybe the worst way to start. It was baptism by fire of trying to, like, people knew who I was, and I was like, there's a lot of people here. But it holds a special plate for the camp out in our heart, because like we just had our 10th camp out that we attended. Finally won the Washers tournament after 10 tries. So was able to make that landmark.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the transition when you were here, then you weren't here for a while. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was here for a little bit, did ministry for about 4 to 5 years full time here at Union Hill. And with an accounting degree, there's not much crossover between the youth ministry and accounting besides keeping track of the budget. So I remember the first time I had a student come up and talk to me about their parents separating and being like, well, I can't budget this or put this in the computer, so I need something. So I remember talking to Diz about how to talk through this and being like, I feel like I have a good enough teaching basis that the thing I really need is counseling. I don't know how to connect in that way. So started my master's program for school counseling, just because I could do both private practice and school. So it just opened up options. And then so I started that in 2018. Was when I started doing that, just not planning on getting out of it. But during the 2019 to 2020 year, that was a really hard year for everyone with COVID, but then additionally for myself and Lisa. I don't know how many people know that were here at church that we lost our son during that time. And so having COVID and also losing Ezra was a really hard combination on us. I think I took it really hard, as anyone would. That was maybe the hardest time of my life. And during that time, the church was great. Like the elders, like, take all the time you need. I've never felt more loved during all of that process. But doing ministry while still grieving. And then having seen the youth group grow so much during that time, and then everything shut down and it really drop off. Like I was burnt out. Like I was just really exhausted.
Yeah.
And so I needed a change. And at the time I like just finished my master's degree in school counseling. And so I saw opening at an elementary school to do some counseling. I said, hey, this is a good school district in Republic. I'm going to apply for it. God, if it's my time to get out, to have a break, let that be the case. And applied, probably got the job when I was underqualified compared to other people never have been in even teaching school. So then kind of transitioned out of that role. But it was very quickly after stepping out of full-time ministry that I think probably within the year, I was like, that was not what I needed. I really missed doing work. I think I even remember talking to you pretty quickly after it, being like, if there's a way for me to come back, I would like to maybe find a way to come back and do it pretty quickly. And so looking back on it, it's hard to like, what's the Lord's will versus my own will? But God still uses both. And so even though I think it was maybe more my wanting to get out of serving in this role, it was God still used it and blessed it, but then opened it up where Bryce transitioned out and I was able to transition in, and now Bryce is at Brookline and doing great things at Brookline and growing that youth group there. So we're just both being able to do ministry through that weird convoluted situation. So it's just fun to see how God uses different ways to help grow us, because I needed the break to reorient, but able to come back in now, mostly healed from all of that, still times of trying and grief, but other times of just, man, I needed to get away for a little bit to be able to come back into it with the right mindset.
Well, many people may not be aware of the extended family that have gathered here. Tell us about all the connections.
Yeah, so we moved here with no family. Didn't even know what like Nixa, Missouri was. We knew Branson. But so after a few years, finally convinced my sister to move down here. Because they wanted to start the homesteading process and getting some land and out of Kansas City. So with us starting having Etta and Faye, and then Jenna bringing down Sage and Kate and their family, my parents were quickly like, okay, we need to make this transition as well.
Grandkids are great leverage.
Grandkids are
here.
Awesome leverage to get parents around. And so very quickly after Jenna and Lance moved down here, Mom and Dad were able to move down here. And I'm even going to claim Eric and Lori as the extended family, the other Petersons, because grandkids are a really great leverage. And so I'm going to claim them as moving them down to this area from Montana, Yellowstone area, to be able to come down. So it's been fun to have extended family start moving here when we didn't have any family here, and that I think was great for us to like church became our family. We were adopted. We have several couples that were just invited us over and made us feel loved here. I know like the Groffs became part of our family because they would just have us over for nights to talk about it. So that was really great, but then it's also really fun to have our biological families as well here to join the Union Hill family.
Yeah. Well, also many people don't, probably pause and think about all the things you're involved with. Yes, you work with youth and family, but you're also, people see you there as one of our key worship leaders. Maybe talk a little bit about your investment in the worship side, and as in a part of that conversation, perhaps, or anything in particular that you would like to see expanded, grown here, opportunities here at Union Hill that maybe you're passionate about.
Yeah. So while I stepped out of full-time ministry, very quickly the elders approached me about joining as a deacon. And so became the worship deacon alongside Richard, kind of taking a separate role of leading the kind of upfront part of ministry on the stage while Richard does a great job organizing the back and getting people to be where they need to be. And so, as I said, I've always loved music. I always in college started leading singing for the college group, and then started filling in here and there for the core group of guys that led singing, and that has kind of turned into being one of the main guys that gets to lead singing. And so I really love worship. Like that's probably my biggest area of passion, besides just like people, is like praising God with our voices. Is the one time in worship that everyone is actively participating. That and communion are the two times that we get together that everyone gets to be a part of it. It's not just someone leading a prayer. It's not just listening to a sermon. It's all of us together with one voice praising God, which is one of the actual commands in the Bible for us to do. So I think there's a high priority on what worship is. And so been able to go through the Worship Leader Institute the past couple of years, and on our third year getting ready to graduate out of it, which has been a huge blessing for me. And I think Kyle and Joel, who have participated as well. Those that were here when I first started leading singing probably have seen the growth and transition.
Been a huge blessing for Union Hill.
Oh, thank you. Because I think even just the confidence of knowing what I'm doing more confidently, and just the freedom of expression that we have with it is beautiful. And just being able to learn new songs has been a lot of fun, but also just some of the older hymns that have such deep meaning for people still. And it's even surprising. Some of our youth groups are like, my favorite song is like this song from the 1800s and written in early 1990 and before. So it's, even though we like teaching the new songs, they still have that place for the old tried and true ones. And so it's been fun to try to kind of give new life in some of the older songs that have a lot of meaning, but still we sometimes sing too slow and like they really die off with the energy. But it's been fun to have the elders have given me kind of permission to play around with what that looks like, and even with like hand raising during it. I would never done that before, and I know some people might not like it, but I think it's part of the expression of giving God the glory, not only with our voice but with our bodies and how we posture ourselves before Him. So it's been a lot of fun to get into that, and now with the kind of growth of areas here, like I would love to see our singing continue to grow, but I would also love to see people just actively participating in worship, whether it's singing or for our men that participate in it that have never gotten up on stage to say a prayer. One of the coolest things that I've seen within the youth group is having kids lead the teen evening service, and having Eli and Chase, and I said this to Chase in front of everyone there, so I can say it again here, of like, Chase never said anything in guys' Bible studies when there was just a few of us. So to see him grow to now give a full-fledged lesson in front of adults and youth group, I would love to see more of that for everyone, and for not only our men during worship, but for our women finding places that they can serve and lead ministries here to take more active roles in church. I'm really would want that from everyone, because kind of as we talked about with the elders, of when you need something from church, there's a time of rest that is needed where we just need to come and be able to be refilled by the Spirit. But then once we're rested, there's I think an obligation and a role for us to play in serving other people too. And so really seeing more people kind of step into different roles, whether that's back at the sight and sound booth, or just passing out communion, or talking to Linda about greeting and being on our greeting team. Or if you have an idea, the Union Hill is probably the easiest church to start a ministry with our automotive ministry, our garden ministry, the volunteers in medicine. We're just all things that a member saw a need for, and then the elders have been very gracious enough to say, do it, we can support that. And so I would love to grow more in that, of having our members being actively involved in different things around.
Okay. Yeah. And rather than just thinking about, okay, what's an area that you would like to have people go fill into, rather people exploring their own gifts, talents, passions, and let that lead to the ministries. Yeah, that's good.
Because I like, even with this format right here, like this was never even a thought before, and it's been a huge blessing to be able to do. And that was just a random thought and conversation that I had that was able to take off and go and be something that's been a lot of fun. And so I don't have a set area. Like, I would love more people to sing, obviously. I'd love more people to be involved with our youth group because they are the most inspiring teenagers that I have seen in a long time, just passionate about church and bringing people to know Christ. So like, those are two obvious areas that I'm involved in. But then, like, I want to know what your ideas are. Like, what are areas of passionate of our members, and how can we bring that into the church to flourish into giving glory to God and spreading his kingdom in different ways?
If there was someone that said, like, those two major areas that you kind of work with youth, if they say, I'd like to do something in there, I just don't know what that might be. Or with worship, I'd like to be a part of that somehow. Do you have any suggestions on maybe areas that people could be more, or like I know we promote a lot our first Wednesday of the month, but many people don't. But maybe you could talk about some of those things.
Yeah. I mean, first Wednesday of the month, we have our singing nights, which is a time that we teach some new songs, but it's also just a really great praise night that has happened. And then we have our singing in the new year night, which is just if we're having other churches come in. Sunset and Brookline are not having church that night and encouraging their members to come here. And so that's on December 31st to sing in the new year. And so those are two easy ways just to come and sing with other believers that are not our usual crowd. But then for worship, talking to Richard or myself and not waiting to be asked would be helpful. Richard's always looking for people to fill in, and really praying about growing in something. If you've never led a prayer in front of people before and say, that's not my talent, that can be. And that's something that you might have to challenge yourself. And so thinking about what are some areas to challenge your own growth and stepping into that. And so volunteering for our Sunday morning worships would be great. If you have song suggestions, our song leaders, a lot of times we're comfortable with the same 50 songs because that's what we know, but I love hearing from other people. I know Russ has asked me to lead a couple songs that I never heard before, and so had to like learn it, and you have done the same, and it's become some of my favorite songs to lead now because it was asked of me. So if you have song suggestions, we want to hear that and get that feedback for you guys. And then for the teen side of things, also, we have our teen hang times on Sunday evenings where we have families host and being able to have the kids into your home. Or if you don't have the space to do that or not comfortable with having teens there, providing a meal for the teens here at the building on Sunday evenings. We play games. It's a really good time. We have 15 to 20 kids here a lot of times. And so it's a great way to get to know them. And while you're here doing that on the Sunday evenings, finding ways of connection points for them. And being able to pour in. We always need teachers as well, not only for the teens, but the younger kids. But for Sunday mornings, I like having other members teach the kids. They hear myself and Lynn and Jason and Lisa, they hear us a lot. So trying to get other people in that have wisdom and have different perspectives. And so they're an easier class to teach. And so being able to, we have the curriculum for you to do, or if you have your own lesson that you're passionate about, being able to do that as well. So teaching them on Sunday mornings, our teen hang times. Or then if there's just other ideas, I know we've had people just be like, hey, this would be fun to do with the youth group. Can we get them to go and do this? If you need help at your house, the teens are hard workers. Yeah. And so not only you can serve the teens, but let the teens serve you guys as well, and getting plugged in that direction.
What would you say when people in the community and ask you about Union Hill, anything in particular that you are drawn to describe that you really are proud of, or whatever about the church? How would you describe that to people who ask you about it?
I think Union Hill has a place for everyone. And where we just have a wide background of people who did not grow up in the church to people who grew up in different denominations and varied backgrounds, to be able to come and find a place that, we are here for Jesus and we are very Bible-based. And that starts with you and our sermons of being in the Word, and that starts with our children's classes, being very diligent about studying God's Word. And so it's really fun to see everyone can find a home here if they want to find a home. And then, like, this is a place that I've never felt more loved by people. During really good times and then really hard times. Like a core memory of mine is when we found out about Ezra at the 20-week sonogram that he was probably not going to live much past a couple weeks at most. It was a Wednesday. I remember calling you and calling our elders and being like, hey, we just found out this news. And we had just announced to the youth group like 2 weeks before that we were having a kid. So everyone knew we were already pregnant to then, okay, now what do we do with this? And we went home and we're just sitting at home and it's like, okay, I can't sit at home. Like I need people to be around right now. And coming to the Wednesday night meal, we didn't sit down with everyone. We just stayed in the kitchen, didn't go to class, but we had most of our elders and their wives didn't talk to us, just cried with us in the room and prayed for us. And that was everything we needed at that time. And so to be able to have those hard times and know, man, my faith is struggling and other things are really hard, that there's a church that I know people are praying for me and texting me and asking me. And even for it's been 6 years now since we lost Ezra, we still get text messages on his birthday and still have people reach out to us and just asking about it. And so it's not only Bible-based, but it's just people who love people and are very excited to be family and more than just a name, to be able to be connected with each other. And so, like, when I tell people about our church, there are people that will truly love you no matter what stage of life that you're going through.
Yeah, that's a great description. Is there anything else that maybe it's kind of on your heart that you would like to share?
Man, I love church. Like I love the opportunities that we have, and I love what we do here. And it's just so exciting to see when other churches I hear are struggling and other youth groups are going through really hard times, that, man, God keeps pouring in opportunities for us to be connected with churches around the world, even of supporting our missionary in Greece, and the youth group's getting ready to have a video chat with the Ukrainian refugees church in Warsaw, Poland, and being connected. It's just cool to see how God keeps providing opportunities when we ask God to show us where you want, and then, man, God really, it's hold on for the ride when you pray that prayer, because God will use you for his work. So it's just really exciting to be a part of our church right now. It's been really great. There's even more things coming up with the worship side, getting connected with other churches that we've met about that I'm excited for, of maybe next summer having more church singing nights that other churches are asking for. So it's just really cool to see the ministries grow in different ways, and just being able to be a part of it. So I'm just thankful for the church allowing me to explore and do a lot of different things with youth and podcasts and worship and everything else. It's always been a lot of fun. So just thank you for everyone that listens to this. And if there's something that you have an idea that you want to get started, I just encourage you to do it. Like, just find a way that if you think this will be a benefit for not only the church, but the community, make it happen. Don't just sit on it. That might be the Spirit urging you on to grow God's kingdom in ways that we haven't seen yet.
Well, and Caleb, I want you to know that you and Lisa and Ed and Faye have been an incredible blessing to this church. And I remember when the first thought, when Joe had called me and was telling me about you, and we were talking about, here's this guy with an accounting degree. It's not usually the degree you're looking for with a youth and family, but who knew, right, that your family would be such a blessing here. And I honestly hope that, that you will be, as time goes, you and I and the others here on our ministry staff working together, that you would be transitioning more and more into that role where I am now, and I'd love to hand that off to you as time goes, because I think you would be a great blessing for the future of this church. And we're just glad to have you here.
Well, thank you, Steve. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone that listens. Until next time, if you want to share your story, we'd love to. We're moving into other people outside of just our staff and our elders. And so we're really excited to be able to hear just some of our members and ministry leaders about what they do. So until next time, God bless.